Dad's making a disc golf podcast.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. Thank you for tuning into The Intentional Disc Golfer, the only podcast dedicated to helping you become the player you want to be. It is our mission to explore the physical and mental aspects of disc golf performance, to deepen your understanding of the game, and to help you reach your potential. Now, to introduce your hosts, Jenny and Brandon.
Thank you, Kaylee, for doing that lovely introduction. I'm Jenny. I'm the mom of the family, and I have with me my husband.
I'm Brandon. I'm the dad.
So to start us off with our first episode of the Intentional Disc Golfer podcast, brought to you by the Saprinsky Family Disc Golf. You can find us on Facebook, if you so choose, if you're a Facebook person. To introduce, our family. We started our family in 2015. We took on the challenge of combining two families together. Brandon had 3 daughters, Aaliyah, Mariah, and Haley. And I had a son and a daughter, Kaylee and James. So between the two of us, we ended up almost a partridge family with 7 people in our household. To give you an idea on the ages of our kids, right now our oldest is 18, our youngest is 11. The little boy is the youngest, all the rest are our teenage girls. So it's always been difficult for us to find things that the 7 of us can do together because we have so many different attitudes, emotions. Now we have teenage girls. So we have a lot of things going on.
7 different opinions, 7 different activities that they like to do, and 7 different objections and or complaints anytime we suggest anything. So parenting 5 kids, especially in a combined family such as us, has its challenges for sure.
Yeah, and coming up with things for us to do is one of those challenges.
And so our journey begins. With 7 people in the house, there's only a few places that we can shop that provide us with the quantity that we need to be able to feed 7 people efficiently. And so we do a lot of shopping at big box bulk stores. And this particular time we were at Costco and we had the kids with us. And we're walking down and getting towards the grocery section because that kind of starts towards the back of the store, at least at our Costco. I don't know how other ones are. We're walking through there and on a display, front and center, up on a shelf next to a thing, with one of those big signs, it was disc golf basket set with discs and a basket, and this could be yours for $75. And at that moment, this light bulb turned on for me. I was like, oh, and I was thinking, okay, well, I've disc golfed a few times, probably 4 or 5 in over about a 15-year span. So it's I was familiar with it. I've always had fun. And I thought that this might be a good idea because it would be easy and relatively low impact for the kids to get into.
You were also an avid golfer, and we're trying to get me into golfing too.
Oh, that's right. I was deep into ball golf, and I just really enjoy the fundamentals and the different aspects of the game, both mental and physical. So I was maybe looking for a venue or an avenue to introduce the kids to golf culture, as it were. But that trip was not the fateful trip, so to say, because we did not purchase the disc golf basket or whatever. It just kind of plants the seed, and we got our stuff and we left. And it was actually about a couple weeks later that Jenny and I came back to Costco, and we wanted to surprise the kids with something, so we ended up buying the disc golf set, and it was a basket and 2 sets of discs, so 2 drivers, 2 mid-range, 2 putters. The basket was pretty good quality. The discs left a lot to be desired, knowing what we know now. However, it was a great starter kit. And so we brought this thing home, we set it up in the yard, and the kids started playing with it. And after a little bit of starting to play with it, you know, it was kind of seeming like they were interested, but not really. And then...
This was when most of them were still in like elementary school age.
Yeah. And so like one thing that we did to kind of like foster this along was I tried to like encourage them to set up like little tee boxes around the property. And, you know, pick out a spot here and there and try to aim at the basket from different spots and, you know, maybe like throw around the chicken coop or something. So they got these rocks, and then Mom got a hold of this idea. And what did you do with the rocks?
You had them paint the rocks.
Did I have them paint them?
Because you're like, we're going to surprise Mom and we're going to have all these painted rocks. And then we're going to go put them all out in the yard. And I was just thinking, I remember having to move the rocks every time I mowed the lawn.
Oh,
And so the rocks were kind of annoying.
That's right. But the only reason we painted the rocks, though, is because you were really into that, like, painted rock thing at the time.
That's your mom that really liked painting rocks. But
well, it
was just something else for the kids to do.
Yeah, it was an activity.
Yeah.
So
trying to get some buy-in.
Anyway, that's kind of like, you know, the appetizer for this whole thing. Things didn't really take off until COVID. When the COVID lockdowns hit Western Washington, or all of Washington, most of the country, late March, early April, the lockdowns had happened. Everybody was at home. The schools were out. Essential employees were still working.
My mom all of a sudden became a school teacher.
Jenny, you were still working, weren't you?
Yeah, I had taken time off of teaching to be with the family, and during that time I was working at Home Depot.
You were just part-time at that point, weren't you?
No, I was full-time.
You were full-time? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had the kids stuck with Dad at home for about 6 or 8 weeks towards the end of March, early April. I work in construction. Construction was one of the first industries to go back to work officially when the lockdowns were starting to ease up a little bit.
It was because of all the stimulus checks, and everyone used their stimulus checks at Home Depot and Lowe's to improve the houses they were stuck in.
Yeah, that's where most of ours went.
Yeah.
It's getting to be about Easter time. Things are locked down, and we have a tradition at our house.
So like many American families, we hide Easter eggs for Easter. The year before, because the kids were getting older, I tried, and we, since we have the combined household, my kids a lot of times are at their dad's house. So this was one of the times where they were still with us for the full time because of the COVID lockdown at the beginning. I tried to do glow in the dark Easter eggs the year before because my kids came back late. So I tried to hide them, had the kids use flashlights or like...
Put glow sticks in them.
Put glow sticks in them. I don't know. It was fun, but it didn't turn out all that well. Because there were still... I had one of the grandparents hide them, I think.
Maybe.
But I don't know. We couldn't find one.
The kids enjoyed it.
The kids had fun. The grandparents had fun.
Well, the grandparents were on lockdown. They weren't here.
No, this was the year before.
Oh, the year before. You're right.
Yeah, we had them over for dinner. You grilled an Easter bunny.
I did?
No. So 2019 put glow sticks in the Easter eggs. Thank you, Pinterest, for your ideas that don't quite work the way that they look like they should. So that kind of worked, kind of didn't work. All of a sudden you were like, so 2020, we should go disc golfing. It was like a random out of the blue comment we should go disc golfing. Well,
I had been cooped up with the kids for a while. I was starting to get cabin fever. I was starting to get itchy because normally like I work outside. I'm very active, and that's how I get my nature.
All of a sudden you were like, we're going to go, I think we should go disc golfing. And being someone who enjoyed hiking, I remember hearing people complain that one of the disc golf parks nearby, Nad Park, I'd hear people say, yeah, disc golf ruined a completely wonderful hike. So I didn't have the best connotation of disc golf. I had known a few people who were disc golfers. I wasn't really under the best impression of we should go disc golfing. I loved frisbees. I grew up throwing frisbees in the yard with my dad. But after a while, the thought crossed my mind was, well, for Easter, instead of looking for eggs, we could just spend the time going and looking for lost discs in the woods. It would just be like, it's like a natural Easter egg hunt. Like, oh, look what I found. Look what I found. So we decided to take the kids to get some discs at 360 Disc Golf because for some reason they were still open.
Hey, shout out to 360 Disc Golf. They're the best.
Took all the kids in to pick out their discs and not really knowing what we were looking for or why. And because Matt has one of the largest selections of discs, it was a little overwhelming having so many options of what to grab. But that year, that's what we did for Easter for the kids was we took them in. They got to pick out 2 to 3 discs. And I remember being in there trying to pick out their discs was difficult because you know how kids are. They're like, oh, I have my assigned color. I want everything in this color. But then they're trying to grab discs that are like max weight. And we're like, you're not going to be able to throw that because it's a rock.
Well, yeah, Matt was like that. We had no idea.
Yeah, I just picked the pretty ones.
Yeah, we had no idea what we were doing, or like I had to actually ask like what did the flight numbers mean because I was just ignorant to the ins and outs of disc golf at that point. I just knew that it was fun and that you throw the disc at the basket and the kids might have fun doing it.
With no understanding that there's these things called trees in the forest. That make it harder to go and throw the said frisbee into basket.
Yeah, trees move. They walk. Somebody needs to set up a trail cam, do a case study. All right.
Only when there's disc golfers.
It's mostly empty space, right? When you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so the kids, a couple of them got some starter packs. A couple of them picked out their own discs and things. Jenny was bent on going all out.
I was completely overwhelmed because I had I'm going to say probably traditional mom feeling of, okay, dad's in there looking for himself and mom has to maintain 5 children, figure out what they need to get. Yes, no, yes, no, 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 no. And then trying to figure out my own on top of that. I was doing the mom thing with the trying to help them figure out what they needed, knowing very well that kids only wanted discs in certain colors and that maybe they didn't have that certain color for their discs. So I believe it was Aaliyah, James, and Kaylee each picked out individual discs. Mariah and Haley got pre-packaged. They got the same starter kits. And I don't think we've ever bought that brand of discs again because they got the Maestro and those were their starter kits.
I think it was, the Discmania, wasn't it?
James got orange discs as much as we could.
Yeah.
Kaylee picked out, we asked them what they picked up. Anyways, so the kids each picked out their discs. And then I just tried to do kind of what Aaliyah does, which was like, I feel like this disc feels like a good disc. So I was like, well, this disc feels like a good disc. And I ended up getting all max weight RPM discs, which I can't throw at all. I still can't throw them at all, but they're pretty and they're hanging up in my office at work.
The training discs.
No. They're hangers.
What was your first disc? It was
It wasn't a first disc. All 4 of those were my first discs. Yeah. They were the RPM discs. The Ruru was the putter. The Piquanda,
Something like that.
it's purple. It's another pretty bird. I could actually throw that one okay. And I kept the Ruru in my bag. And then there was the green control driver, which was a Hua.
Yeah,
and
but that
then
one was like 177 or something too.
But it was green.
It was green.
I didn't even think about that. Like, it was green. You can't find green discs in Washington wooded courses because everything's green.
Well, and it's like being a beginning disc golfer. You don't care about the weight either. You're like, grams, whatever. Pfft.
And then my last disc, I don't even remember what it's called. Coterre, I think. I know, it's like an 11 speed, and the highest I can throw is a 9. Years later, now knowing that, the highest I can throw is a 9. At a lightweight of like 150 grams, not the 177 grams.
Something like that. I think I picked out, because I had a beginner set, like the cheapy Innova. It has like a Firebird in it. It has an AVR.
You had a set that was in like this really nice leather bag that had been sitting in our closet ever since we got together.
Well, the leather bag wasn't a disc golf bag.
I know.
It was like a briefcase.
It was a professional briefcase type of bag that you had these discs in, and it made me laugh every time I saw it.
It was just in there for storage because I've been disc golfing a couple times, but not anything serious. But no, I had the Innova starter set that I had forever, and it had like a Firebird in it, an AVR, and I want to say like a Shark or something. Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm. And all base plastic. So it's like I decided that, I wanted to get something a little bit nicer and actually like try one of the better plastics. So I bought like this. I brought a Pro Star Valkyrie, and I think I got a putter too, didn't I? I can't remember. I think I got a putter with that, just a little nicer one.
You probably bought a Leopard.
No, it wasn't a Leopard. I didn't discover the Leopard until much later, and I'm glad that I did. But anyway, having, again, just like Jenny here, having no idea what I was doing, and my whole thought process was like, this is like the first understanding I have of flight numbers, and so like I thought, well, if I throw this disc, it's gonna go to the right, and then it's gonna come back to the middle, and I'll eventually end up straight. So, anybody that's ever played disc golf knows that those little buggers don't go straight at all, ever. And so yeah, that's just me. Anyway, so we ended up dropping a few $100 at 360, packed up all the kids, and took them out
on Easter.
On Easter.
Yeah, to the disc golf course that's right behind our house.
That would have been the day before Easter because Matt's not open on Sundays, isn't it?
Probably. We probably took them on Saturday and then went disc golfing on Sunday.
Yeah.
On Easter.
I think so. Yeah, we took them out on Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we weren't able to do a family dinner.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so we went disc golfing at Frederickson, which is owned by the First Lutheran Church here in Paulsbo, and they had created a disc golf course on their property that they maintain.
Yeah. It's a beautiful and challenging course. But
it was a long walk just up to, and it still is a long walk up to the first tee box. And the first 3 holes, it's a lot of elevation gain up and down and up and down. And then when you get to 4, like, we didn't understand the way that these discs throw, and the fact that we're all right-handers, they have a propensity to go off to the left. And there was a steep hill off to the left.
There still is a steep hill.
Is. The paths are getting a little bit more manageable now.
And having never been to Frederickson before, we probably I wouldn't take a beginning first time disc golfer to Frederickson. I mean, it's a little bit of a shorter course, but it's very technical, and there's definitely an opportunity to lose a lot of discs there.
I have a lot of friends now through the tournament circuit that they still haven't done Frederickson. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to until I have to.
Well, the PDGA rating system like rates Frederickson really high.
I know.
Like for some reason. And maybe I don't get it because it's like that's the course that we play probably most often, you know. And now, and I remember at the time, Bud Pell was still an option. Bud Pell was still open and available, so like we could have went there, but it's like I didn't.
We just wanted to go somewhere close.
Yeah, didn't we decide though that like Bud Pell might have been a little too much for first timers?
No,
I don't remember the thought process behind this. Maybe it was this. We wanted to be somewhere close. Mm-hmm. So. Anyway, yeah, Frederickson's great. So we took the kids out there. It's their first time. You know, like Jenny is saying, the first couple holes are pretty dogged, and they're neat. They're really neat. However, the kids, as kids would do, are complaining, and my legs hurt, my feet hurt. But they are all, you know, adversely more excited about the opportunity of being able to go out and play disc golf for the first time.
And they all had their hiking backpacks because I would take them hiking and stuff on during summers for little hikes and things, and teach them about, you know, you take your Nalgene, you have food with you. I mean, things they've all forgotten now that they're teenagers.
Yeah. So we had a multitude of wonderful experiences on that first time out, and moving forward, because at the beginning we pretty much exclusively disc golfed with the whole family and the kids. Like that was our thing. And we go out there and we do our thing. And every time we went out, we had a positive experience. Whether it was a difficult positive experience, like dealing with a young man missing a, you know, very like awesome putt or something, and you know, having to deal with that emotional regulation, or, you know, hitting those awesome shots. But every time we went out, the community was always very, very kind to us. They're always very encouraging of the kids. Some of them would even stop and watch because they just wanted to see what 5 kids playing disc golf would look like. And so, but I think the thing that stands out to me is every time we went back to the car, it's when are we going again? When are we going again? When are we going again? And even to this day, you know, we get some mixed ho-hum feelings about it, but it's mostly in the realm of sarcasm, because anytime we say, hey, let's go disc golfing, you know, they're all about it.
No, they're not. Like, even with starting this podcast, practicing with the kids, being like, hey, James, tell us, what do you love about disc golf? I don't. As deadpan as possible.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it's really one of those things where we just keep going at it. And, you know, like everything else in life, we know that it's difficult. We know it's not easy, and we always learn something from it.
Yeah.
So we still, we keep going.
And, you know, back in those early days, we really didn't anticipate it being this obsession. It's just we kept going and kept acquiring more discs.
Oh, that reminds me of one of your selling points trying to get me to do this. It's affordable.
It's affordable. Disc golf.
That was one of your selling points. You're like, look, you only need a couple of discs. Like, it's affordable. We don't have to pay for the courses. Like, there's one right behind our house. Like, if we go over just a few feet and blah, 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 you can see the disc golf course, kind of. But yeah, that was his trick was, this is affordable.
Well, the cost for entry is not high.
Yeah, it wasn't like having to buy a set of clubs for each kid.
Yeah.
Which is thousands of dollars.
The cost of entry was not that high. If you want to stick with it, it's a money suck is what it is.
Well, at least for us, we decided that it was, because we kept buying more discs. There's lots of people out there that have their 3 and that's it. That's all they throw.
We have our set now, figured out. It took us a while to figure out our bag, but we had to trial and error quite a bit of different discs and different weights and different flight patterns to really dial in something that would be competitive for us.
And quite frankly, if we would have gone into disc golf knowing more about the technical aspects of the sport, like the sportsmanship parts of it, I don't think we would have bought as many discs as we did. And I think that now a lot of people getting into the sport, like a lot of people are getting their kids into the sports now too. There's a lot more kids playing. And so the parents are teaching them, this is the disc you want, or there's a lot less, as a woman in the sport, there's been a lot of stories of women just get their hand-me-down discs from their boyfriends. And women tend not to throw the same way that guys do. So it's become more of a movement of people understanding how they disc golf, not how someone else disc golfs.
Yeah,
So-
that's very insightful. So if you're looking at getting into disc golf, our advice to you would be do a little bit of research and some homework, find out what's out there, and kind of hone that to what kind of experience you're hoping to have.
Well, I would even say, stick with the standards. Like, they have starter packs for a reason. They really do have starter packs for a reason, because they're very easy discs that you can get into the sport with. There's not something that has like a crazy, 12 or 14 speed usually in the starter packs, and the starter packs tend to be more mid-weight than full on heavyweight.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a great point, is like the starter packs in hindsight, you think they're designed so that a beginning player would be able to go out there and have a positive experience. Because what's the point of them having a negative experience and giving them a bunch of messed up discs that are going to flip and roll over and do all sorts of weird things?
Yeah. Well, and that's part of disc golf too, is why are you getting into disc golf? Like, if you're getting into disc golf to go the tournament route, you're almost guaranteed to get a disc at every player's pack. Like, that happens. So you tend to end up with an excess number of discs. Like, I'm looking at my piano. We're sitting here doing this podcast, and there's like 20 discs sitting here on my piano right now.
Oh, we have to have accumulated over 200 discs or so far
Per person.
per person.
James was up in his room the other night, and I forget what he was looking for in his closet, trying not to go to bed. He's like, oh, I forgot about this disc. Oh, I forgot about this disc. And he's just pulling all these discs out of his closet. I'm like, dude.
We have enough discs to start a charity. Is what we start our own charity. So anyway, long story short, we didn't understand that it would become this obsession, and we've been playing very regularly for 2 years now. I think our U-Disc last year, we put in something like over 200 rounds, and that's not really counting tournaments. It was high. It was like better than half the year we played disc golf, more often than we didn't.
No.
Yeah. Well, that's just rounds, not days.
No, I think we did 100.
100. It was a lot.
No, not really. Not when you look at people who disc golf every day.
Well, yeah, but who has the time to do that? a lot of people do. Yeah.
But it's more like, we have a couple things that we do regularly with the kids. Movie night is a pretty regular thing. Dungeons and Dragons or My Little Pony role-playing game is something that we can all do. And then going out and disc golfing. Like, these are the three things that we pretty regularly do as a family, because it's something that everybody can participate in.
And for the most part, everybody agrees on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're kind of always on the lookout for those things that are going to kind of bring us together and be able to create those bonding opportunities.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's nice about the disc golfing is that as much as we do try and compete with each other, and we are kind of all, like me and the girls and James, me and the kids are all pretty comparable with our disc golfing ability. We kind of play all within the same points. So like even last weekend, Haley beat me by 3 or 4 points.
Yeah.
When we were disc golfing. So it's nice to be able to be competitive within each other. But more than that, it's watching the individual growth and changes. And I think that's the part that keeps it so that the kids are interested in it themselves, is that it's something that they can see their own growth and improvement in.
Well, I think that's well said, is that just overall, there's no real ceiling to the things that disc golf has to offer as far as a sport and as far as like personal and emotional development too.
It's like with high school sports. So Haley was doing swim and gymnastics and Mariah is doing wrestling. And then we have Kaylee who does all the track. And then Aaliyah who does art. And then we have James.
Competitive art.
Yes, competitive art. But they're all built for something different, and all of them are able to access disc golf.
Even the ones that aren't necessarily super athletic.
Yeah. Like she's better at it than the rest of us.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't think about it.
Yeah, exactly. So now we come to what we're doing right now is we're producing this podcast and putting ourselves out there because, we're not the greatest disc golfers in the world. I think I finished last in every single tournament last year in MA5. No, it only goes up to MA4. So,
and I won the women's series event for Washington for FA4. I know it wasn't because of my ability.
I think that lends well to like it's competitive across generations and across skill levels and everything. It's a great sport that way.
So I think talking about why are we deciding to do this podcast, I think we decided in August of last year, like towards the end of our season, that we kept looking for something to listen to, something to watch. And I think we kept watching the same couple technique videos over and over again, watching the Pro Tour, listening to people just talk about like what's in your bag or, how are you standing? Or
there's really kind of only like 4 or 5 guys out there that have instructional channels that address, like, it's a very narrow window of people.
Yeah, watching YouTube, looking for instructional videos. I'm a connoisseur of audiobooks. And just we haven't been able to, even still trying to find something that is really helping, I don't know, helping with kind of the mindset piece of disc golf for me. There's not a lot out there. And a lot of the tips and things that people are saying is, as much as we're trying to say all of this stuff will work for you, it may not. Because I know one tip that works for Brandon really doesn't work for me, or something that works for me doesn't work for Brandon.
Yeah, everybody's built a little bit differently. Everybody's mind works a little bit differently.
And I want to say, as a woman, trying to find videos talking about ways to throw, it's hard to find.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because everyone's built differently.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people out there that are able to talk about, well, how do you throw if you have a different body type? Or like I've heard people out on the field, they've just lost a bunch of weight, and so they're having to relearn how to throw. So disc golf is one of those things that changes a lot that we can all access at any point in our life. However, as we change, our game changes too.
Yeah, that's a great point. What in your background do you feel like you can offer in this podcast?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't feel like I'm qualified to give advice on being a disc golfer. I do, however, have a long history as a teacher and as working with professional development, working with teachers and working with kids, working with adults, working with kids, teaching and getting kids to work on improving themselves, having adults working on improving themselves. I have my master's degree in teaching science education, focusing on the inquiry cycle. So coming up with a problem, trying things out, and coming up with, well, what is my answer to my problem? So I think that's what I'm bringing to the table is I have my own personal experience with disc golf and my own questions I've been asking and trying to help come up with ways to solve these problems that other people aren't necessarily able to solve for me.
So in a nutshell, what you're kind of saying is that if you were to make disc golf a profession, or at least a very consistent hobby, that this would be kind of professional development for being a disc golfer.
Yeah, kind of professional and personal development. Because like I said, it's not one size fits all. And that's what's one of the best things about disc golf, and that's one of the most difficult things about disc golf too. So I think why we agreed that we're going to start this podcast is that we're looking for someone to help us determine what we should try out for our personal journey. And so I think this is kind of one of our accountability pieces, is sharing our personal journey and inviting other people to join in with us, because there's not a lot of this out there that, at least in the podcast realm, that allows people to join in and have that opportunity.
And I agree with that. I mean, Jenny's been with me through a lot of this, but also in my personal study, in disc golf, I haven't been able to really find a lot. There's a lot of videos talking about form. There's a lot of videos talking about, doing this or doing that. And it always just seems like tips and tricks, and there's no real, it's real quick and there's no real like in-depth knowledge and conversation about it. It's just kind of, do this, without really understanding the mechanics and the why we're doing that way. And I think that's part of the things that doing a long form podcast such as this would offer. We're not the greatest disc golfers in the world. We don't have any ambitions or plans to be on the pro tour or anything even relatively close. However, we do feel like we have something to offer, because like for me in particular, my background, I used to be a certified personal trainer, so I understand exercise and diet. I used to be a professional athlete, so I understand practice progression, training regimens, and also the work ethic and things that it takes to get to that level. And not only that, I've had a very limited background in adult instruction and adult teaching. Being able to take those knowledge and experiences and put them out there to the community in hopes that it would help somebody else, that's really kind of like why I'm doing it.
Or just doing a podcast.
Yeah. We're just inviting people along our journey as we go through it. And I think we saw a need to fill in some of these holes and offer something that we feel is missing from the disc golf development realm.
I would say that, this thinking of other sports, thinking of how people learn, it's kind of missing along a lot of places, especially with how much time people spend on social media, and social media only shows you one half of what's going on.
Sometimes not even half.
So I was being nice. The accountability piece being real, that, there are going to be setbacks. There are going to be times where you end up throwing your bag at a tree because you're so upset. And that's part of the sport, is having the wins and having the opportunities to grow from a missed opportunity. So that's kind of what we're trying to show here with the podcast. We were talking about that there's not a lot of things out there that we feel are available now. So what are some of the areas that we think are missing that we're going to hopefully hit on here?
I think one thing that I've been having trouble finding out there from an athlete perspective is a lot of the background work. How do I say this? There's no like secret to becoming really, really good at something. The fact of the matter is anybody can do these things with work and diligence and practice. Honestly, anybody can become a professional if you're willing to go through the steps. And you have the knowledge to be able to back that up.
Well, and I was going to say with Kristen Tatar, how she, dominated this year with disc golf. One of the things that I really like about her is I actually did a little reading that 3 or 4 years ago, she's like, I just started playing. Like, I didn't think it was going to turn into this. So disc golf is something that anyone can jump into at any age, and you can become as good as you want or just play for fun.
Where I was going with that is like Kristen Tatar, and I just started playing disc golf, and they have these videos on YouTube or whatnot. Here, do this. This is your walk up. This is your reach back. This is your steps of form or whatever, balance. There's not a lot out there for all the background work. Well, what's your training program like? How do I build a training program? How do I know when to progress? Am I just doomed because I don't have that innate talent to be able to do these things? And in kind of lifting the veil on those secrets of what the pros are doing, because it's universal across athletics. Whether you play, that's the reason where, like Russell Wilson, he got drafted into the Colorado Rockies and he got drafted to the NFL. He's a cross-sport athlete. And that's because body mechanics, musculature, mentalities, all of these different aspects of things are all universal across different athletics.
So I think that's more on the physical aspect of things. I feel like there's really, for me, there's a hidden aspect of this game and other games. The only other sport I ever played was bowling. Let's be honest. I was co-captain of the bowling team out of 3 people, and I was horrible, but I loved it. There's the other aspect that it's kind of ties in with the all the mental health aspects. There's a lot of people that I see out there that are disc golfing and had the conversation of, I have really bad social anxieties, so I do this, or I have anxiety, or dealing with our internal emotions on the course when you have a bad throw or a good throw, or how does that affect you? So for me, that's the thing for me with disc golf is the emotional regulation piece, is because these kids need an opportunity to practice emotional regulation in real time, like our kids do. So part of that is, being able to keep your own statistics. And what statistics could you keep? Because there are not a lot of constants in disc golf. Everyone has a different run up. Everyone throws a different disc. Everyone has a different body build. Like it's not a one size fits all. So being able to come up with, well, what are your stats? What makes disc golf your game? So what parts make you a successful disc golfer?
So you're talking about coming up with like an adaptable formula that could work for anybody.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, making yourself, instead of learning about someone else's journey, you're creating your own journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How to create your own journey. Yeah. That's great. And you touched on something, a little bit earlier in that is, one of the things about professional athletics is the sports psychology side of it. There is a lot of mindset, a lot of different, mental and emotional rehearsal rituals that play a lot with performance and have a lot to do with positive athletic outcomes. Becoming great at something teaches you how to become great at something. So becoming great at something teaches you the work ethic, teaches you a process, teaches you so many transferable things that you can take into something else, become great at that thing without having to put in redundant work, basically. And where I'm going with this is it sounds like tackling these topics and having discussions about these topics, not only would you grow your disc golf game and become more competitive, more athletic, or just even becoming closer to your personal goals with disc golf, it can also lend to other areas in your life and help create positive outcomes in other areas of your life.
I'd agree with that. I think that, we talked about why are we doing this? It's part of our accountability piece to really stick with our own programs and hopefully help other people too. But there was, when I was in leadership training through the Boy Scouts of America, I worked with one of our leaders. His name's Joe Vieira. And he taught something called Trail of the Eagle instructor training. And he taught me about the process of teaching and learning, that you start not knowing anything. And then you try things out. You go through this progression of learning, trying things out, trial and error, making mistakes, growing, and eventually the final piece of any journey is to be able to teach that to somebody else. And I feel that that's where we're at with our disc golf journey, is that we're going through a lot of growth, a lot of trial and error, and we're finally to the point where we feel we have a good understanding of aspects of disc golf that aren't really being discussed. And so we want to take that next step and really teach that, be able to share that information with other people.
If we can't contribute to our community by being on the pro tour or starting some big foundation or something like that, being able to, share our knowledge is a way that we can contribute to the community, without like having, a foundation or like a pro tour. And maybe one day, who knows, maybe not pro tour, but, a nonprofit might be cool. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? The sky's the limit. And with what Jenny was saying, just to back that up, is as we travel along this journey, as a family, as husband and wife, as disc golfing partners, sometimes even card mates, we are taking this journey with our listeners. We are doing the things that we are talking about. We are actively practicing these different principles and different concepts. For example, if I'm talking about a putting drill, this is something that I do. If I'm talking about diet and exercise, this is something that I'm actively participating in. Our goal with the accountability piece to not be hypocritical towards each other or towards our listeners.
Everything that we're discussing are things that we've actively done, tried, attempted, researched, read, something along those lines to help try and improve our game. And the whole purpose of this is that we're trying to give you guys an opportunity to kind of a direction to experiment on yourself, to figure out what you need to do to make your game the best that you can.
Anywho, I think that does it for this episode. It's our introduction, just a little bit about our family, what we feel is missing, and what we feel that we have to offer, and hopefully dive in and discover and discuss lots of different aspects of disc golf, and to develop your game and to develop your person.
We're inviting you to take some intentional steps to learn about yourself, who you are as a person, who you are as an athlete, and have all the statistics and data you need to make a decision how you're going to move forward.
Hopefully through joining us on our journey, you can embark on a journey of your own. Thank you for listening. This is the Intentional Disc Golfer signing off.